Art is the most powerful form of expression there is, without any doubt. It can be used to convey an important message, shape our day-to-day lives, concoct a social statement, and of course, be relished for its aesthetic magnificence. From ancient times till today, the importance of art has always been very influential and is deeply rooted all over the world. Art gives an understanding of our lives and assists us in getting an insight into society. While some art elucidates a positive light on events and people, some art is scandalous and holds power to cause an uproar. One such painting is Madame X. Today, this painting is worth nearly $106,000 and is hung on the walls of the American wing of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. But when it came forward in 1884, Paris was shaken. The painting is known as Madame X and was painted more than a century ago by John Singer Sargent. However, this wasn't any ordinary painting. It practically ruined a woman's life, the one she was based on. So who is this woman? The woman in the painting is Virginie Amélie Avegno Gautreau. Born in January of 1859 in New Orleans, Louisiana, she was a Parisian socialite. Anatole Avegno, her father, was a major in the Confederate States Army and gave up his life while serving in the country's Civil War in 1862. Virginie was only 8 years old then, and after losing her father, her mother moved with her to France. Virginie completed her education in Paris, and when she became of age, she was introduced to the high society of France. It was only a matter of time before Avegno started being recognized as one of Paris's most striking beauties because of her appearance. She was a brunette, had pale skin, and excellent features with an hourglass figure. It was said that to enhance her beauty and color complexion, Virginie used a face and body powder that was lavender in color, dyed her entire hair with henna, and even had her eyebrows colored. She enticed a lot of admiration and attraction from society because of her impeccable style and elegance. Virginie was also known for her heavy makeup, which was not common for women back then, and she was advised to use moderate makeup. She tied the knot with Pierre Gautreau, who worked as a banker and was a shipping mogul in France. They had a daughter together named Louise Gautreau. Except for her beauty, Amélie also gathered a lot of amorous attention that was not at all discouraged by her. She had affairs with men outside of her marriage, and the stories of her extramarital affairs were so talked about that they ultimately became the topic of various scandalous tabloid sheets, and not to mention gossip handbills. One of her extramarital affairs was with a man named Samuel John Pozzi, a gynecologist by profession who also collected art. He once had his portrait, titled Dr. Pozzi, painted at his house by home. They had been painted by a young and aspiring painter named John Singer Sargent, an old student of a famous French master known as Carolus Duran. So when Sargent saw Virginie and learned about her stories, he saw it as a way to use it to his advantage. He thought he could establish his popularity in the region if he capitalized on Virginie's fame and painted her a symbolic painting. So he asked Jean Pozzi to introduce her to Virginie, and the doctor processed Sargent's request, which led to a meeting between him and Virginie. And since both of them were from America and wanted to be well-renowned in France, they found common ground. It resulted in Sargent receiving an invitation to Les Chaines, the Brittany Chateau of the Gautreaux, where Sargent elicited around 30 studies of the woman in watercolor, pencil, and oil. Now being so well known and beautiful, it wasn't that Virginie had never been painted before. In fact, she had posed for paintings by various remarkable painters of the 19th century, such as Antonio de la Gándara and Gustave Courtois. And although all of them were great, none of them matched Sargent's infamous portrait of her completed in 1884, which had been submitted in the Paris Salon held in the same year, and was titled Portrait of Madame X. So what was it that made the painting so scandalous? Virginie's pose is sensual and provocative in the painting, and her portrayal is luxurious and glorious. She wears an extravagant satin gown, which is black in color, that contrasts her pale skin and makes it look even more striking. Gautreau's hairstyle is inspired by the ancient Greek style, and she has a crescent-shaped diamond necklace on her neck, which is proclaimed to be an emblem of the huntress Diana. It was believed that the woman's demure pose had a suggestive meaning behind it, and the revealing costume that she wore was found offensive by French standards. Furthermore, it symbolized the indiscreet reputation of the woman that eventually gave rise to a firestorm of acrimony by society and was perceived as extremely nefarious. While reviewing the painting, one French critic even wrote that if anyone stood in front of the painting when it was exhibited in the salon, it is quite possible that they would hear every single cuss word in the French language. For the audience of the salon, the portrait was too audacious, and it wasn't that posing for a painting as a model was seen as disgraceful at that time. The tradition of the period were different and conservative. Modesty was the utmost priority for women. It was that through the portrait, Sargent was discerned as having disregarded the tradition very openly by illustrating the unethical lifestyle of the woman. This painting sheds a new bad light on the already stained reputation of virginity, and naturally, her family was not happy with it. So Gautreau's mother, who encouraged her to get her portrait made by Sargent, thinking it would make her even more famous, but in a good way, had requested Sargent to discard the painting from the salon, but to her dismay, he disagreed. He said that the most he could do for her was to change the title of the painting to what it is known by ever since, Portrait of Madame X. The scandal eventually became so big that the painting was definitely mentioned whenever people talked about her. Ultimately, it resulted in Gautreau relinquishing high society for a very long time. And although this painting caused Virginie to retreat from French high-class society, Sargent continued to uphold his artwork actively, stating his portrayal was meticulous to the truth. It showcased the real appearance of his model. He ignored the hostile criticism. However, he made one correction. Initially, when the portrait was made, the strap on the right shoulder of the woman's dress was shown falling to the side, which was done to add to the sensual disposition of the painting. So Sargent repainted it and put the shoulder strap in its place this time, but did not change anything else. The scandal guaranteed that Sargent would receive no more portrait commissions in France. He decamped for London for good, where he became one of history's most famous portraitists of the upper classes in Britain and America. The scandal John Singer Sargent aspired to draw the portrait in the first place to establish himself as a skilled artist, and despite the scandal it caused, the work succeeded in securing his reputation. Madame X advertised his skill to paint his models in the most praising and contemporary way possible. Although he was practically banished from French society and received no commissions there, he led a decent career in Britain. He developed great admiration in America in the latter half of the 1880s. Madame X is the most famous painting painted by Sargent. It was sold to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in 1916, by the time which was more famous and controversial than any other piece of work at that time. Virginie Emily Avegno Gautreau died on the 25th of July in 1915, a year before the painting was sold. If you enjoyed our explanation about the Madame X painting, then subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to stay updated. We will be back soon with more such interesting videos. Thank you for watching, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one.